A question I get a lot as an author is, how long did it take you to write it? Honestly, out of 50 plus books I have written, ghostwritten and under my name and guiding people in nonfiction, it really depends on the book. It also depends on your confidence and how much you've developed your writing style and what comes with that, right? Experience will always make things more refined on the first go. It will always not necessarily be faster, but a little less painful of a process, unless the book just doesn't want to come out of your head, right? So, very first novel I ever wrote was technically Rebirth. This book was formerly named Sakugen because I was a big anime nerd in high school. I wrote it in high school, yes, like 50,000 words of it in binders and people's lockers that people were reading and remembered 5-10 years later. And when I ran into one of those people and they were like, hey, did you ever finish that story with Houghton? I remember it left off here. It blew my mind because I didn't realize my stories were worthy of being remembered. And I went back to it. So in short, how long did it take me to write Rebirth at a professional level with everything I know? It took a lot longer than I wanted it to. I would say roughly 13 years, including all the breaks and circling back and not sure. And part of that, towards the end, was a break to learn about professional writing and start with a fresh book, knowing all the new things that I had learned and apply it to that. And so I went to another high school story, Cedric the Demonic Knight. I doodled this. I wanted it to be a graphic novel with cool, epic, middle-aged monsters and knights and demons and all sorts of fun stuff, right? But I wrote this and it took me going back and forth, trying to learn my writing style, trying to master, identify certain bad habits, good habits, what I was getting wrong, the importance of story structure, the importance of character development, and all these new things that I hadn't realized how deeply an author needed to educate themselves just on the craft. So this book took 3 years, and then I circled back and finished Rebirth. So my debut novel, Cedric, was me telling a story at a professional level. And then, of course, I couldn't leave it at that. So I wrote Romasanta. And I decided, let's apply everything I've learned from these first two. Now I know what my writing style looks like, how I'm telling the story, the tone. I know I've got a rough plot outline or bulleted out. Let's see if I really focus how fast this story comes out. I wrote the first draft in 75 days. And it was over 83,000 words, I believe. And then it took another 3 months to revise and get it where I felt confident to give it to an editor to get the most bang for the buck and not agitate them with dumb stuff. And from there, it hasn't been too difficult to write stories. I have plenty of stories, as many of you know. If any of you have talked to me at a writing event or asked me about story ideas, I have a lot that it's just collecting dust back there. There's a reason why I have 3 pen names, because I also want to be able to pivot sometimes. Sometimes I have to come up for air by pivoting to one and the other. But that is how long my first 3 novels took me to write, and it varies ever since then. Love's Hellhound, my current work in progress, has taken me far longer than I suspected, especially since the first 20 to 40,000 words came out so rapidly. I just had a loose idea. I liked the world and playground I was in, so it was a little easier. But then I realized if I'm going to do a true rom-com, there's a lot of development and expectations from the readers and genre that I had to be mindful of and had to seal those, tie up loose ends and fill gaps. So that's what I've been battling with the most with this. I'm having to take that earlier step back that I had to do with these first 3 and sort of learn a side of the craft I haven't really fully delved into, because I kind of cheat with fantasy romance, right? I know fantasy by heart, that's my jam. The romance, okay, I can toss some romance, but I'm not obligated, right, to follow a true romance plot. That's why it's fantasy romance, not romance fantasy, right? But now I'm doing a paranormal rom-com, and I want to make sure that I don't disappoint my readers. Yes, it's a happy ending. Yes, it's a feel-good read. Are you going to get frustrated and laugh out loud? I hope so. Are you going to fan yourself? Absolutely. There's some saucy one-liners in this book. So, but hopefully that helps you guys out.